When you look at sense and sensibility, I'll really try to elaborate and explain to you what I mean by that and how they bring the human experience marketing totally to life. So let's understand the context first. There is a humongous amount of digital transformation that has already happened. If you look at the last 5 years, the amount of change that has happened is substantially more probably than the amount of change that has happened in the preceding 25 to 30 years. But if you look at these changes and the implications, they are nothing compared to what is going to happen in future. But let's take a stock of what it is today. First and foremost, you are talking about consumers' entire lifestyle changed. Social media has totally altered the concept of relationships, the concept of interpersonal interactions. The brands are being actually advocated or trashed in the social media, and they can be made or broken by a single tweet. That's one huge amount of change. The way people are discovering the products that they would like to engage with or buy has totally changed. The entire purchase funnel has altered. So in the past, even about 10 years back, we used to say there is a model called IDAS: awareness, interest, desire, action, satisfaction. Today it is not valid anymore. The purchase funnel has collapsed completely. And if you look at the media habits, totally transformed. You have got, firstly, consumers feeling that advertisements are a huge annoyance and an interruption to their experience. And in that kind of scenario, you see a proliferation of ad blocks and ad-free environment and so on. We'll talk about it in a little while. But the way you will have to reach the consumers, cut through the clutter, has changed totally. In the old days, there used to be something called prime time. Today, there is no prime time. Consumers are always on. The mobile device has become literally like an extension of the human body. You go to bed with it, you wake up with it, and it is there with you for the whole day. In that kind of a situation, you have, on the one hand, a challenge of identifying the right moment when you would want to communicate to the consumers about your product or about your brand. And on the other hand, you also have a situation where there is such a phenomenal amount of fragmentation of media. How do you really reach the consumers in an economical and a compelling and an effective fashion? The challenges are totally different for marketers today than they were even probably 6 to 10 years back. And we already have new technologies that are there, which is like addressable TV, that is gaining significant scale. Digital marketing, programmatic, and all this have become fairly passe. In that kind of a situation, today how marketers are doing marketing is quite different than how marketers were doing marketing 5, 10 years back. Now, let's see what's happening in the future. There is an explosion of technologies that's coming up. You have got things like artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is going to totally transform marketers' lives. Every single aspect of the marketing ecosystem or the value chain is going to be touched by and impacted by artificial intelligence. Already, for example, in my company, which is MasterCard, we are already deploying artificial intelligence in a number of areas. In almost like 11 areas of marketing ecosystem, we are deploying AI very effectively. It's going to completely change. The amount of data that can be analyzed is absolutely humongous. The data in a highly disorganized asymmetric fashion can be assimilated by artificial intelligence, and patterns can be read, insights can be arrived at that can be incredibly powerful. Things can happen with AI almost in near real time, which means dynamic optimization is going to be very different tomorrow than the way it has been. And then there is 5G. 5G is the new technology and telecoms space that is going to affect every single other ecosystem because of its speed, the bandwidth, and the lack of latency. That's going to be very transformative. And it has got profound implications for marketers who take advantage of such technologies, particularly for remote engagement of consumers and giving remote experiences to consumers in a way that feels that you are physically in the vicinity of the consumers, or the consumers are physically in your vicinity or in your brand's vicinity. Possibilities are immense there. Then you got blockchains. If you look at the entire ecosystem of advertising or even of marketing, there is so much amount of inefficiency. There are so many middlemen between the brand and the publishers, for example, that some studies have shown that nearly 60% of the total money that is given by brands only goes to the publishers, which means 40% is going to the middlemen. That's hugely inefficient. Plus, there is a lack of transparency. Blockchains can bring about a lot of transparency and disintermediation of the intermediaries, which brings a lot of efficiency and frictionlessness or seamlessness into the ecosystem of advertising and marketing. Then you have got areas like virtual reality. The list goes on. The number of technologies which are coming at us is literally going to be very exciting if you know how to take advantage of it, and it will be very daunting and you can get obsolete if you don't keep pace with these technologies. Now, when you look at the consumer life, what is going to happen in the context of these new technologies coming? It's going to be a profound change. So firstly, for example, I'll give you the scenario where consumers have already started adopting new ways of interacting with their environment through smart speakers. Smart speakers like you have got Alexa from Amazon, or you got Google Home. These are devices which are gaining a ton of traction and penetration into consumer households. Already at this point in time, more than 10% of all the households in the US have got one of these smart speakers. The way you interact with these smart speakers is going to be very different. There is no visual real estate. It's all voice based. So as a brand, how do you show up in this voice environment where there is no visual representation of your brand? That's just one example. Number two, you got things like Internet of Things. Internet of Things, whether it is your refrigerator or your dishwasher or your washing machine, you're going to be talking to them and you'll be making them do things for you that you are doing them yourselves. For example, if you have a refrigerator which auto reorders various items, after sensing what is in your fridge or not, it's going to take away the whole process of purchase. It's not just an altering of your purchase funnel, but the purchase mechanism itself is going to be completely altered, and you might not even get involved in it on a regular basis. Now, if you look at smart speakers, WFA has done a lot of research in this space, and one of the stunning findings out of this is when you are asking the smart speaker, whether it is Alexa or Google Home, saying that I want to buy a dishwasher detergent, or I want to buy some soap, or whatever it is, 70% plus of all the people say that they would follow the recommendation of that particular device in terms of the brand or the product, and they'll just go with it, which means now you have not only got a new influencer of the decision making process in the mix, they are probably the decision makers themselves, which is fascinating, and it's really going to grow in a significant way when the artificial intelligence kind of solutions or tools are actually deployed by these smart speaker companies. Life is going to be very different, how you're going to purchase and how you're going to reorder. So entire lifestyle of consumers is going to be different. When you look at connected cars, people are going to spend a lot of time in the cars today. They're listening to stuff and then they're driving at the same time. But tomorrow they don't have to drive in an autonomous driving vehicle, where then they can actually be interacting with some visual medium as well. And the car can potentially become a mobile office or a mobile living room. It's going to be very different. So then how do you really engage your consumers in that kind of a new environment which did not exist till now? Connected cars and how you make purchases, whether it is the food items when you're going on a drive or how you fill your gas, it's all going to be totally altering. As marketers, we absolutely have to be on top of our field, which means we need to understand all the surround systems, all the surrounding technologies, be prepared to take advantage of those and not get obsolete. What I will try to do is to demonstrate to you a couple of examples of what I have done at MasterCard just to bring these points to life. So, to take advantage of these technologies and to take advantage of the new dynamics in the overall consumer sphere in the coming years, the strategy that we have adopted is what we call as sense and sensibilities. What are sense and sensibilities? Today, predominantly, consumers are interacting with a brand or brand related communication through a couple of senses. It's predominantly visual or it is sound. The question we asked ourselves is that enough? Or should you really look at all the 5 senses of the consumers? The sense of sight, the sense of sound, the sense of smell, the sense of touch, and the sense of taste. That's one part of it. And the second part, I'll come to sensibility in a little bit, but let's start off with the senses. So when you're looking at all these senses that you want to engage with the consumers, we started with the visual sense. In the past, MasterCard used to have a boatload of brands, as you can see from this slide, and what you're seeing on this slide is just a small subset of all the brands that MasterCard had. So we said, this is madness. In a scenario where there is such an information overload, consumers have learned to tune themselves out of all this noise. So for example, it is said that between 3,000 and 5,000 commercial messages are thrown at consumers every single day, meaning any person on an average gets exposed to 3,000 to 5,000 commercial messages every single day, which is humanly impossible to really process all that and notice all that. Plus, it's also said that the span of attention of a human being is now slightly less that of a goldfish. Now, with a narrower span of attention and a massive information overload, consumers are either tuning themselves out of all this communication on the one hand. Number two, they're annoyed, they're irritated. So when you're watching a nice video or a movie, suddenly it stops and then your ads come on. It's very annoying, even to me, though I'm a marketer myself, as a consumer, I hate it when my experience is being interrupted. It is an intrusion into my space by these ads, and I don't want those intrusions. I want a seamless, beautiful experience. So what do? Go to ad blocks. Now, is it only the highly tech-savvy people who do ad blocks? No. There are more than 650 million devices today that are actively fitted with an ad block. They have been activated, and activating an ad block has become just a couple of clicks. And in Asia particularly, for example, mobile devices come preloaded with ad blocks. And when that happens, it makes consumers' lives easier that just with a couple of clicks, they activate the ad blocks and they shut the marketers out from their devices for good. That's very dangerous for us as marketers. And number two, the people are so annoyed with ads that they are willing to pay money to stay in ad-free environment. So for example, when you look at Netflix, they have got more than 1.2 or 1.3 billion hours of video viewing that's happening on a weekly basis. These people are not available to us as marketers to advertise to. So we need to rethink how we are going to advertise. And back to my MasterCard example, we are trying to really simplify. We are trying to declutter the environment. So what we did, all these brands that you notice on the screen, we have shrunk them. We have eliminated them, and we came up with one major brand, and that is MasterCard. But then we said, it needs to be contemporary. It needs to be futuristic. So we have done this change, which is we have slightly altered the red and the yellow colors. We have changed the font of the word MasterCard and brought the name MasterCard from out of the logo to below the logo. So this we have done in 2016. The whole idea is to make it more contemporary, more aesthetically superior, and most importantly, that it is optimized for the digital media. After that, we have gone ahead, and at the beginning of this year, we have dropped our name MasterCard altogether from our logo. In other words, we have now become a symbol brand. There are very few iconic brands where the logo of the company does not have the name of the company. The reason we could do it is because the recognition of the MasterCard brand was huge. It's more than 85% or 84% of the people around the world are able to recognize a MasterCard logo as belonging to MasterCard, even without the word mark MasterCard written there. Now, what's the big deal of doing it just because there is high recognition? The big deal is when you are looking at people going to smaller and smaller screens, and particularly when it comes to wearables, and on your watch, you have got a very tiny screen. And when you're making a purchase on your watch, for example, you've got 4 or 5 network brands that they show on the small screen. And in that, of those 4 or 5 brands, MasterCard is one of them. So the space available for each brand is so small that nobody is even able to read the word MasterCard. If I take away that word and expand my logo to occupy the whole space, that is actually going to give a significantly superior visual impact, because now I suddenly look almost 15 to 20% bigger than what I was before, because people process visuals first and words next. So by taking the words away and replacing it with a larger visual occupying the same space, we are optimizing absolutely in a superior fashion. So this, for example, is what we have done as one example of how we could enhance and optimize the sense of vision from a consumer's point of view. It's not just about the logo change. We have also have a complete logo system or the design system for our brand. It's a brand identity system. So all the ads that you look at MasterCard will somehow connote elements both direct as well as subtle about the brand. And here is one example where you see the 2 circles coming together in a very unique and an unusual fashion, which reinforces the brand perception, the brand image, and the brand equity in a very nice way. So this is so far so good on the visual side. Now, when I talk to the speakers, the smart speakers at your home, like the Google and the Alexa from Amazon, in those kind of situations, there is no visual real estate at all. The entire transaction is happening through voice and through sound. In those kind of situations, where do I show my fantastic brand logo? There is no representation there. So we have to therefore think of the sound of MasterCard. It is about taking your brand identity to a completely different level. If my brand has to show up in a sound form, how do I go about it? I looked at every single brand that is out there with some sense of a sound representation. For example, you have got Intel, which has got a beautiful sonic signature. Or you got British Airways, which has got a nice tune that's played on the planes and so on. But what I thought was for my brand, or in fact for that matter any brand, those kind of approaches are very good but not sufficient. So we started saying that if in the visual world we have got a comprehensive sonic architecture, how can we translate that kind of an architecture into the sound, into the world of sound? And so this is what the outcome is. Layer number 1 of our sonic branding is we have a melody. It's a 30-second melody, and the melody has got the following characteristics. Number 1, it's very pleasant. If it is not pleasant, people get annoyed. Number 2, it is memorable. It has to be memorable, otherwise how will the connection happen between your brand and the melody? Number 3, it has to be hummable. The more you can hum a brand, the better the remembrance or the memory of that brand is. It goes straight into your mind, it goes straight into your heart. It should not dominate a situation, but it will be supporting that situation. That neutrality is very important. It has to be highly versatile. It should be, on the one hand, be very native, say for example in Nigeria, or it should be very native in India, or it should be very native in Australia, or in the US, or Germany, or Latin America, wherever you go. It should feel local, it should feel extremely appropriate to that culture, it should feel like a part of that culture. So we need one melody which feels universally at home everywhere, and it's not very easy. Then we also put one more constraint. It should be versatile, that it should be playable in different environments in a very relevant and an appropriate fashion. So for example, if you're in an opera setting, It should feel very native there, versus if you're an electronic dance music festival kind of a situation, it should feel very native there too. So in that kind of a versatility you want to accomplish across the entire spectrum, it's not an easy task. And that's exactly what we set out to do, and hence it has taken us 2 full years. So here is the melody. Just take a listen of this. Now, the second one we have got is a small subset of that melody is our sonic signature. It's roughly about 3 seconds. Now, the melody is played in all our ads, at all our events, in all our sponsorships, in all our presentations, and we also use it, for example, as a ringtone for our employees' phones or any consumers. If they want to download, it is available for them as a ringtone. And it is also used as music on hold if somebody calls a MasterCard office. So at every touch point, typically that we interact with our consumers, we have got that melody playing in the background. Then you've got the sonic signature, which is about 3 seconds, and it is a subset of the 30-second melody. And when you hear the 3 seconds, it should feel like you have heard the 30-second melody. There should be a strong connection. And this sonic signature is used at the end of every advertisement, for example. And a subset of that is what we call as our acceptance sound. The acceptance sound is 1.3 seconds, and this plays when the transaction happens successfully, when the payment has made successfully. You hear that reassuring sound, and this small 1.3 seconds is strongly linked to the 3-second sonic signature, which in turn is strongly linked to the 30-second melody. So this whole thing is extremely well connected, and these are just 3 layers that we have launched so far. We have got a total of 10 layers that we are working on as we speak. Now, we have leveraged this melody, adapted it to different geographies around the world. And for example, we have got an Arabic version for the Middle Eastern region, for example. We got a Latino version for Latin America, or an Indian version for India, and so on. Take a look at that. You have just heard how the melody translates across different genres and across different geographies and cultures around the world. Now, we cannot sit in New York and try to create these sonic identities around the world. So what we did is we did a simple composition of what we call is the DNA. So this is the DNA of our sonic brand. So take a listen at the DNA.
MasterCard set out on a journey to create a truly holistic, flexible, and future-proof sonic identity. The foundation is a multifaceted sonic DNA that combines unique melodies, riffs, chord progressions, and vocalization. Let's listen to the individual elements. The MasterCard Sonic DNA is built around core brand melodies that make the brand uniquely recognizable. Brand riffs function as the connecting tissue for the elements of the DNA. The brand chords provide additional layers to enrich compositions. And finally, the brand vocalization that adds a relatable human element to the DNA. Together, these ingredients make up the sonic DNA of MasterCard. This sonic DNA makes the brand clearly recognizable at all consumer touchpoints, while offering the highest degree of creative flexibility when creating new music and sound assets.
Now, from the sense of sound, let's move to the third sense. This is the sense of taste. Now, what has MasterCard got to do with taste? That's a legitimate question. What we thought was that people are passionate about different things in life. Our brand is an enabler of people realizing their lifestyle aspirations. Culinary is a very important component of that lifestyle. We call it a passion point. So culinary is a huge passion point, and we started our journey almost 6 years back when we started creating what we call priceless tables. It's a table that's put on top of a billboard, for example, in Manhattan, Times Square in Manhattan, and people are sitting on top of that billboard and having their meal served by a Michelin-starred chef, a 5-course meal. It's very exotic, it's very different, and it's very unusual, and it's a unique experience. In other words, it's very priceless. People loved it. Then we started taking those tables to many, many other places, like in the middle of a baseball field, or it is on the stage at Carnegie Hall, or it's next to a dinosaur skeleton in a museum. And we started doing this all over the place, and we do thousands of these priceless tables. Then we said, let's go to the next stage. How will it be if we were to create our own restaurants? Now, that was a big, bold move for us. So what we did is we created our first restaurant at the International Airport in Rome, in the departures area, and it's called Bistro by MasterCard. And it has got a lot of uniqueness about it. Normally in an airport you don't get gourmet food, but here we serve gourmet food, which is served by Chef Michelangelo. And the response has been extremely positive, and we feel very delighted about it. And based on the strength of that, we launched 4 more restaurants in Manhattan. We call it the Priceless Culinary Collective. Take a look at these videos.
Food is how we connect with each other, share our stories, and explore our world. How many times has a great meal become the start of something priceless? Culinary is a nearly $10 trillion category worldwide. It's the leading driver of travel spend, ignites the passions of the affluent consumer, and is the #1 passion point for female consumers. So our efforts in this space are extraordinary. For the last 5 years, we have served our cardholders a feast for the senses called the Priceless Table. We've created hundreds of priceless tables worldwide. Each one has been unique. All have been unforgettable. Through Priceless.com, we invite our cardholders on epic Epicurean adventures with hundreds of exclusive experiences. All of these experiences are one of a kind. Many are once in a lifetime. This year, our culinary journey continues with the introduction of the MasterCard Bistro, an immersive, interactive, first-of-its-kind experience reaching affluent travelers and debuting at Rome International. We're launching new pop-up restaurants in destination cities and partnering with Le Fooding and Michelin to shine a light on new, up-and-coming restaurants. And no feast for the senses is complete without something sweet. So in celebration of our new brand mark, we're introducing Priceless by Ladurée, an edible work of art that fuses 2 original flavors, the taste of passion and the taste of optimism, to stimulate your senses and inspire you to start something priceless.
So what we did was, as far as Manhattan is concerned, we tried to get some exotic restaurant from somewhere else in the world. Like, for example, there is one in Zanzibar, off the coast of Zanzibar, called The Rock. We replicated that Rock restaurant in Manhattan indoors. So basically you have got the entire ambience recreated, the sea breeze is recreated, the smells of the sea are recreated, the same menu, the same utensils, And when you go inside the restaurant, from every window, you exactly get the same view as you get from that window in the original rock. This is how we are trying to bring to life. And I think many brands have to really try and look as to what is the relevance and how relevantly can a sense be brought to life in the context of their brand, such that it is not a force fit. If it is not feeling authentic and natural, there will be an organ rejection immediately. It's not going to work. So you got to really make sure it is very authentic. It really fits in very well with your brand, and then bring it to life, and you have to use all the senses that you can. Now let's take the other dimension, which is sensibility. Sensibility is to understand the nuances of the feelings and emotions that people have, their aspirations, their insecurities, their fears, and try to tap into them as a brand that enables them to realize their aspirations or mitigate their insecurities and pain points, and to make them feel really well taken care of. Not just by themselves, but also take care of those people who they care about. So I'll try to be more tangible when I say what this is. We partnered with the World Food Program, and when we partnered with them, we said, there are different promotions that we will run around the world with MasterCard, where each time you use your MasterCard, for example, we'll feed a poor child in Africa. It costs us about 25 cents to feed one child for one meal. And we developed this program, and we have done different versions of this around the world, so much so that we have been able to contribute to 100 million meals so far to the World Food Program, which actually administers these meal programs at schools in various countries around the world, particularly mostly focused in Africa. Now, what does it do to the school attendance? Interestingly, the school attendance goes up by about 11% overall, and even more so amongst girls, it goes up by 14%. That's very gratifying. And so what we are trying to do is to address some societal issue with a high level of sensibility, married with a business model. This is not just philanthropy. This is going to be, or this is actually a core part of our core business model. We call it priceless causes. People do care about other people, and you're tapping into that sensibility. So if you tell somebody saying that you pay with cash, you pay with check, you pay with some other card, nothing happens. But if you pay with your MasterCard, a poor child is fed in Africa, they do care about it. And we are very excited about some of the progress that we are making in this space. What we need to look at going forward as marketers for the new era, for the new age of marketing is, on the one hand, tap into all the 5 senses of consumers. Experiential marketing is going to be at the heart of it. When it is well complemented with advertising, that can be a magical mix. On the second hand, you have to tap into the sensibilities of people. You have to tap into the collective psyche of people, of the culture, to be able to really make a difference, not only to those communities and to those people and to those individuals, but also to your brand and to your business. So hopefully you have got some takeaways from this that are actionable from your point of view. But if any one of you would like to engage with me on this, I'll be more than delighted to entertain and happy to respond if you have any questions. Please feel free to either follow me on Twitter at Raja Rajamannar, or on LinkedIn, or which is also Raja Rajamannar, not surprising, or feel free to reach out to me at MasterCard email address, which is raja.rajamannar@mastercard.com. Thank you very much, folks, and once again, congratulate the winners of these awards today, and I hope you all have a fantastic session, and I look forward to meeting you folks at some time in the near future. Thank you very much.